video on something that I could probably talk about for hours, but I'll try and keep it to under 15 minutes. Who knows, maybe I'll bang it out in like under 10. But that is living with ADHD as an adult. So I was diagnosed with ADHD as a teenager when I first came to the US. I was 17, I think. All my siblings did pretty much when we first came. Because we very clearly have it. And it is categorized very differently in the UK, which is where we are from. In the UK, it's sort of treated as sort of a behavioural disorder. Which it can be. That's usually how it, not usually, but that is sometimes how it presents in boys, which is why it's very underdiagnosed in girls and then women, because we're usually not that much trouble at school, like I was, but not that much. Like it wasn't like a problem. My behaviour was never a problem, even though I could be naughty sometimes, or impulsive, or too talkative, and I never handed in a single sheet of homework. If it was, latterly at least, if it was like given to me on a sheet, like that shit had to be either in my book or online, otherwise that was gone as soon as it left the classroom. But yeah, it was pretty apparent to my teachers when I came to the US that I had it even when I was much older, which is kind of frustrating, I suppose, because it meant that my whole life I really struggled but didn't get any support, which is fine. I mean, it's not fine, but it is what it is. I'm making the most of it now, and honestly, like, I'm doing fine. But there are some everyday annoyances, and some of them are more than annoyances. Some of them are actually cause quite a lot of emotional distress. So I've written a couple of things down, and some of them are heavier than others. Some of them are just... Okay, I'm just gonna get to it. So, some of the more annoying things every day are things like blurting shit out and interrupting people and zoning out mid-conversation, so just kind of general rudeness. I think generally I mask pretty well. I think that women typically are socialised to deal with this aspect of ADHD better than men. You know, like when a girl blurts something out of turn or interrupts, it's and you know, social psychology will back this up. Does back this up. That, you know, it's more likely that someone will step in and correct her and say, that's rude, don't do that. Whereas boys get away with it more. So women tend to mask these social symptoms a lot better, and I think I do to an extent, but I still do. I'm still quite impulsive in conversations and say shit that I shouldn't, unless I've like really practiced beforehand to not say something, like if there's a secret that I'm not supposed to say, or like I've noticed that like I'm really wanting to say something that I know I shouldn't. I'll like practice in my head to not say it, and generally I'm okay. But you can't do that with everything, so yeah, I blurt shit out that I really wish I didn't. And some of it's rude. Sometimes, unfortunately, it's hurtful, especially if I haven't been super engaged in the conversation. That's tough. I really hate doing that. Obviously, no one likes being unkind or rude. But yeah, I think it catches people off guard because I'm quite good at pretending I'm listening when I'm not. I actually rank in the bottom 1% of American adults in working memory, or auditory working memory, which means that I really find it hard holding information in my head for more than a few seconds. So I have to do a lot of, once it's in there, it's there. But auditory processing is really difficult, so I often fuck up in conversations, which feels bad. I mean, it's frustrating being bad at maths, because generally, cognitively, that's what that means. This means that you are clinically bad at maths. Or just like brain function wise, you are neurochemically bad at maths. Or anything that you have to hold figures in your head for, hold figures in your head, especially changing figures. That's gonna be hard. But I suppose socially it just feels really bad when you mess up. And I think that leads into these other two things, which are criticism and guilt. I think something that ADHD people suffer with, or just something that we have to live with, is that criticism feels really bad, especially if it's criticism over things to do with your ADHD, because, at least for me, I get really upset when I get criticised over things that I can't really control, or that I should know better on. I have no problem taking responsibility, taking heat, taking a chiding over things that I've chosen to do, because that seems really fair to me. I made those choices. If I made a negative choice, I'm fine owning up to it. But I have a really strong emotional reaction that I'm really working hard to get more of a curb on when I get criticised for things that I can't help, which usually are related to things related to my ADHD, and a lot of it is like, yeah, I was rude, or I walked away from an important conversation because I blacked out, and thought of something else. A lot of the criticism is really valid, I might say, and it's not even criticism, it's just like, I don't know, like, it's normally between me and my girlfriend. It's often just her being like, hey, that kinda hurt my feelings. It's really hard not to take that really personally. And that's a lot of things that a lot of ADHD people struggle with. I struggle with repeating mistakes. I hate making the same mistake twice. I make a lot of mistakes in my life, as I hope you are too, because they're good for you. But I really like to learn from them and figure out what to do better next time. And having ADHD, a lot of the mistakes that you make are going to be things like forgetting stuff and being disorganised, or just letting stuff slip, blurring something out, making an impulsive decision that you shouldn't have made. That's really difficult, because a lot of the time you can't really learn from them, or you can't learn from a specific mistake that you make. You have to make a bigger plan in minimising them, and how to minimise them, or how to make life easier on yourself. But yeah, you do unfortunately find yourself making a lot of the same mistakes if you have ADHD, and they're really stupid ones a lot of the time, but it is fucking difficult dealing with that, with just the feeling of guilt when you find yourself making the same mistakes over and over again, or forgetting the same things over and over again. In school, like, my main thing that I struggled with was focusing in class. Obviously, that's like the classic. I'm barely even going to touch on that, because I feel like everybody knows people with ADHD can't focus, but it was, I lost so many points in school. I missed out on so many marks, grades, or whatever. I did school in the UK and the US. But my grades suffered because when I was handed an assignment, my main concern was not, can I do this assignment? like, is it hard? It was, am I going to remember that this assignment was even given? Things were very organised for me when I was really young. Like the school I went to, they gave you like a planner and shit and made you write in it. But as soon as that went away, I was completely lost. Like, I would never remember to do anything. I wasn't trying to be lazy or anything like that. I always wanted to do well in school, even if I wasn't mad on the subject, or thought it was boring or thought it was difficult. I always really wanted to do well and do my best and make the most out of the opportunities. But it was so hard to even remember to do the subject, to do the homework or any kind of extra, anything outside the classroom where there wasn't someone telling me to do it. I could not do it. It was so difficult. And there was so much guilt around that because it did look like I didn't care. Especially when I got to sixth form and university, when you're supposed to care a bit more. And it was subjects I cared about, and it was really hard. The teachers being like, why didn't you just not do anything? I had to be like, I couldn't explain why, because I really wanted to, I just never could. And that sort of leads into another really frustrating part of ADHD, which is, and this is just, I think this is specific to me, but it's also something that other people struggle with. I suppose it's sort of a secondary side effect that a lot of people happen to have, is it's just this constant need to prove that you're smart, or prove that you're not dumb. And mine can make me kind of insufferable at times. I've really worked on it over the past kind of 5 years, and I'm pretty happy with where I'm at with it now, but sometimes things come out that I know because of this, and I'm speaking as not braggadociously as possible. I am very smart. Obviously I have social smarts and all those stuff that your parents tell you that you're good at when you're doing bad at school. I am smart in a lot of kind of streetwise ways, but also academically, I am very smart. The same, score that I did, or the same test that I did to get diagnosed with ADHD, I did an IQ test, and they couldn't calculate an IQ because I ranked so low in the things that give me ADHD, in the bottom 1%, but I also got top 98, 99 for most other things. So it's an absolute prison in my brain sometimes, because I feel like people tend to talk to me like I'm really fucking dumb sometimes. But I'm actually probably smarter than most people, and not in a kind of, I'm really not saying that to brag, just to kind of show that that's been something that's been really frustrating. There is also some classism elements too, I think, to that I'm kind of still unpacking. I don't know if you can hear it that well with me whispering, but I do talk like I'm from a sort of lower class. I do have a quite working class southern accent, southeastern accent, which also people used to discount me and talk to me like I'm stupid. But I'm constantly trying to show that I know things. I'm trying to be less. This video is gonna be longer than 15 minutes. Fuck. But let's try and keep it under 20. I'm always trying to, impress people with fun facts and stuff, or show that I know things, and trying to be right. I'm really much better at trying to be right all the time. Yeah, trying to. I've really built some humility in that regard, and kind of rely on my own intelligence to get me what I want, rather than not get me what I want, but get me what I need, get me where I need to go, rather than rely on other people's validation of how clever I am. It sounds so ridiculous when you say it out loud, but I don't know. I think there is a need that a lot of ADHD people have, that that we're clever because we say some dumb shit sometimes, and I don't know. I feel like I have a lot to prove all the time, which isn't necessarily true anymore as an adult, but the compulsion is still there, and I think I'm probably always gonna have to keep it in check to an extent. But yeah, I mean, it's ingrained. Like, it's not just strangers. I mean, I really want my family to think I'm smart. My best friends, my girlfriend. It's really dumb, to be honest. But it is what it is. At least I know about it. I guess the last two things would be, one is just a practical one, med refills. So, something that really helps me, and it's the reason that I'm going to be able to go to grad school, and it's the reason I can be in a very high stress, very overstimulating environment with little to no stress. Is I take medication. I take Adderall. I've been on medication for, I don't know, quite a long time, maybe like 8 years or something. So quite a long time. I've tried a lot of different ones. I go between Adderall and Vyvanse because, and this is one of the annoying things about having ADHD, is that there are often shortages of the medication that you need. So I was on Vyvanse for a while. That was a good fit for me. And there was a shortage because everybody switched from Adderall to Vyvanse because there was an Adderall shortage, and then all of a sudden there was a Vyvanse shortage. So I couldn't get my meds for months, and I was a mess. Like, I couldn't get anything done, and I'm an adult. I gotta take care of myself. I gotta take care of my responsibilities, and there's no one to tell you to do things. There's no one to remind you. All of my kind of coping skills kind of were hanging on by a thread, and so I had to switch to Adderall because there was no Vyvanse in my whole bloody city, and I live in a big city. So I constantly have to switch depending on what's available, which is annoying as hell. But it is what it is. And remembering to refill my meds when it's time is kind of a pain in the ass as well, because I always remember way too late, which is very much an ADHD symptom, and you can probably figure that out. And because it's a controlled substance, ADHD medications are controlled substances, at least in the US, there's a lot more red tape, a lot more faff than there would be if it was another medication. So all around, just an annoying process. And the last thing that I want to say is that the overstimulation is, it is a daily struggle. A lot of noise happening at the same time, a lot of moving pictures, really can be very overwhelming. Just any kind of overwhelming sensory experience can kind of cause you to kind of shut down a little bit. I think that's one of the areas where ADHD and autism, like those kind of neurodivergencies, do converge a little bit in both groups of people, and there is a very high instant. I don't like comorbidity when talking about psychiatric stuff, but I mean it's very, very likely for ADHD and autism to show up together. I don't have autism, I'm not autistic, but it's also very likely for things like OCD and anxiety to show up with those groups as well. I definitely have a lot of ADHD related anxiety due to the aforementioned. But yeah, overstimulation. It can look. I think everybody gets overstimulated in their life, but how we're able to deal with it and how quickly it happens can be very different for someone with ADHD. It can be a very overwhelming experience. You can completely shut down. When I'm overstimulated, sometimes I can't form words really. I just have to like stare at a blank wall or play like a mobile game or something. Something really just like low stim. But yeah, lots of things. The worst one for me is lots of talking at the same time, which happens. I work at a homeless shelter that is there's a specialty in mental health recovery and substance abuse recovery. So like there's so much. There's 30 people living with us, so there is so much crosstalk and yelling, and sometimes, lots of people just very excited to see you. Sometimes it's really positive things, but I can't handle it without medication. It's completely overwhelming, and I shut down. I can't function. I can't form a single thought. And yeah, I need a lot of alone time because of it as well. Sometimes I wonder, I would say I'm an introvert, but sometimes I wonder if I'm actually that introverted, or I just need a lot of alone time to kind of have some low stim time, because I just don't want to form a sentence around another person. But I've gone on way longer than I thought, which I should have predicted in myself. Obviously there's so much more to ADHD and I could talk about it for ages, in my personal experience, but also like, yeah, what's it like? My girlfriend has it as well, so I do have a lot of experience of that, like what it's like being a partner to someone with ADHD. She has even more, I would say, and my whole family has it as well. Or at least all my immediate family members except for my mum. So honestly, my mum is probably the ultimate. She's also a therapist, so she's probably the ultimate authority in dealing with ADHD people. A fun fact about my mum is, when we were little and we couldn't sit still, she would like she would wait until we were in the bath when we were really little to do our times tables and like our spelling test words with us, because it's the only place we would sit still. And we would also never sit still for her to clip our nails, our toenails and our fingernails when we were really little. So she used to do it while we were sleeping. That woman is kind of a saint. We were a handful for sure. Having 3 kids with ADHD is not easy. But I've gone on way too much. I hope you found this interesting or validating, or informative, or if you found it, or if you hated everything I said, I hope you at least found it relaxing. Alright, be good to yourself.